Hi everybody, I'm Catherine from Built Environment Skills in Schools, and I'm joined today by the Sustainable Chemistry Research Team from the University of Nottingham. Hi all, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
What I'd like to do is go around quickly and ask you all to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what your research involves, what sustainable chemistry is, and what that might mean to teachers and to careers leads who will be watching this video. In no particular order as it's laid out on my screen. Can I start with you, John?
Yes, hi. My name is John, and my research is in the area of carbon capture, which is materials which can capture carbon dioxide before it gets into the atmosphere from power plants. And this is a key area that's going to be vital in bringing our emissions down to net zero. And it's been discussed recently at COP26 as well. So it's, I think, an interesting area for students to look into.
Wow, clever stuff. Brilliant. Thank you. Bradley, do you want to say a little word about yourself and your work?
Yeah, hi. So my name is Bradley. My research concerns plastic recycling. I'm using microwaves to try and find new ways to break down plastics to try and develop new recycling strategies. That's really important because if you think about it, we use plastic every single day in cups, clothes, toys, it's everywhere. And it's really, really important that we can find a way to keep reusing that plastic and recycling it over and over so that we can keep it in play for a very, very long time and make our resources last.
Brilliant, thank you. Another excellent field of research. Callum, how about you?
Yeah, hi, I'm Callum Southwood. I'm also part of the plastics recycling theme on the CDT along with Brad and Morag. My research focuses more on the biological degradation of plastics for recycling. So this would be utilising enzymes that are biologically derived from a sort of bacteria, and they'd be used to break down the plastics at much lower temperatures than we have to at the moment.
Clever stuff. Brilliant. Thank you. Amy Louise, how about you?
Hi, yeah, I'm Amy. I am also part of the CDT in Sustainable Chemistry here at Nottingham, and my research is looking at synthesizing a type of material which is known as a layered double hydroxide through a kind of scalable, sustainable technique, and then utilizing these materials for removing pharmaceuticals and antibiotics from waste. So overall, really looking at kind of pollution in water and what we can do to remove some of these more concerning contaminants in wastewater.
Wow, words in there I didn't even understand. That's amazing. That's really, thank you. And finally, Morag, how about you? What's your work?
So like Callum said, we're all, Brad, Callum and I are all working on recycling plastics. So I'm also doing a more biologically focused project. So I'm using the whole bacteria, not just the enzymes, to break down, and the bacteria are able to use the plastic as a food source and break down and make it into new chemicals that we can use to make new plastics, or new chemicals that can go back into the economy and be used for other products. So yeah, again, interesting, and I think we're all on very topical subjects.
Definitely, and as you mentioned there, John, so many things that were brought up at COP26 that really are the things that are going to change the world as we know it, and hopefully start to make things better. Before we move into the questions that I've got, I know that you're all PhD students, and I know that you're all looking at a particular field around sustainable chemistry, but I think generally for teachers and careers leads, they'll be interested to know what life is like as a PhD student. So just, whoever wants to jump in with some thoughts, what's it like to be at this sort of level of advanced education? What sort of things could they maybe be talking to some of their students about to help raise their ambitions?
It's just, I'd say one of the things that I really enjoy about my PhD is that every day is a little bit different. Like you're doing like a different experiment every day, or a slight variation of one. You might be doing some more reading one day. Maybe you do an experiment that doesn't quite go to plan. You have to work out why that happened. So I think, yeah, that's the thing that really appeals to me, is that no 2 days are the same really. And that does keep things, we'll say, interesting.
Yes, I'd probably add to that as well, that when we're all dealing with these sustainability issues day to day, I think it's sometimes easy to get bogged down that maybe things aren't changing and that we're not making any progress. But then being part of the university, you hear about everybody's research that's actually dealing with some of these problems. And that can give you a lot of hope that actually things are being done. It's just behind the curtain a little bit, and you know, maybe the public aren't necessarily aware of what is going on within universities. So yeah, you're part of stuff that is really relevant to everyday life.
Anybody else want to jump in? I know that you work with lots of employers in supporting the work that you do. Does that give you a sort of commercial edge to what you do as well, or different perspective on some of your thinking?
Yeah, I think definitely it's during a PhD you do come across people in all different areas of research, some who are academics, some who come from more commercial companies. Everyone has different motivations, but really the sustainability driver through doing our CDT in sustainable chemistry and our PhDs being in this area, I think really helps give focus to what you're doing as well, and kind of a broader understanding of what people are interested in.
Fantastic, thank you. I think that's going to be really useful for teachers and careers leads, and hopefully when we share this video, if teachers, careers leads, you're watching this and you've got some questions, you know, we'll put those up and post these back to the team and ask them to come back with some answers. Okay, the reason that we're talking today and having this conversation is that you've created a phenomenal resource for schools and colleges. Resources, information, downloads, lots of things that teachers can use and build into the curriculum to help them demonstrate and explain sustainability to young people and to students. Let's start at the beginning. What do you think schools should be talking about when it comes to sustainability? What do you think should be a priority for young people to know? If we go back the other way, I can start with Morag.
So I think there are a lot of relevant topics that come into sustainability, and it's so easy it's so vast and there's so much but if you focus on the circular economy or just in generally thinking about end of life and thinking about where does your waste go, those kind of open-ended questions can open some great discussion with younger people, and it's going to be something that everyone's becoming aware of, but it's much easier if you learn it from an earlier age, and then it's not so new to you. So I think that's why it's important, yeah, to get it into schools and help them learn about sustainability in general, because it comes into everything.
Absolutely. Amy, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me it's really important to think about sustainability and circular economy topics to be really cross-curricular and quite, I guess we'd use the term in research like interdisciplinary, because I don't think there's a huge amount of benefit from only talking about this from a scientific perspective or from a social perspective. It's really an overarching thing sustainability is going to be involved in every walk of life. So schools at certain kind of age groups are really best set to have that kind of cross-curricular way of speaking about sustainability and linking it all together for students.
Fantastic, yeah, absolutely. Callum, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's important to have this discussion with young people and students in schools, primarily as just so to let them know how they can impact the circular economy and sustainability personally, and potentially even how they could contribute new or different perspectives themselves, and potentially in the future maybe even offer their own solutions to or suggestions about the circular economy or sustainability.
Absolutely, this issue's not going anywhere, is it? It's
No.
it comes around for a while. Brad, how about you?
Well, I think it's also quite important for schools to explain what sustainability is, because it gets thrown around in the news and online quite a lot nowadays, which is a good thing. And I think the broadest definition you can make is using the resources you've got now to give everybody a good quality of life. whilst leaving enough resources left over for future generations. My first lecturer, who sort of described sustainability to me, said you need enough stuff for your children, was how he put it. It's quite informal. Because each generation is going to be somewhat dependent on the one that's come before to leave the planet in a good enough shape for them. And I think because of that, it's really important, like Callum said, to explain to people what they can do now to make responsible choices in terms of sustainability. So getting a bus or buying a bike rather than having a car, growing your own tomatoes in the back garden, or even reusing a plastic bag. There's something everyone can do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And John, what about you? What do you think schools and students should know about sustainability?
Yeah, just briefly to add then, I think one of the key things about living sustainably is, and in a kind of a holistic sense, is that it's not just about, you know, picking a few things and doing them. It's really about changing the way that we think, related to kind of how we use resources, consumption, and waste, changing the way that we think and kind of the culture around it, and that will result in behavioural changes kind of across the board. And I think young people are best really to think about this, because they're often, perhaps when we get older, we're more stuck in our ways in certain things, but young people can quite easily, I think, broaden their ways of thinking. So I think it's really important to talk to kids about this kind of stuff. And also, of course, they're the ones who it will probably affect kind of going on the next generation. It'll impact them more. So I think it's really important that we talk to young people about sustainability from an early age.
Absolutely. For any teachers and careers leads who were watching our Festival of Construction earlier in the year, I know you'll have seen a couple of the speakers there talking about when they first came into their disciplines, whatever it was, when they started studying, they were being told, this is what we need to do to protect the planet for your grandchildren. When they started work, it was what you need to do for your children. And now it's what we need to do right now, right this minute. We don't have any more time to waste. A couple of you have mentioned the phrase circular economy there. Does anybody want to jump in and give us some descriptions? What does that mean? What is that in real life?
So, oh, go on, Amy.
So I guess the way I would explain it to someone in quite a straightforward manner is thinking about every stage of an item that you use or a process that you do, thinking about where it comes from, what you do while you're using it, or kind of carrying out a process, how it got to you, how you're going to dispose of it, what will happen after its end of life, and how everything does have all of those stages, and you need to consider all of the stages really to understand a product's impact on the environment a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know people have started to use the term saying we can't talk about throwing things away because there is no away. What does that mean? Where does it go? It doesn't disappear. Something has to happen to it. Brad, what were you going to say?
Oh, I think the way that I tend to think about the circular economy is to compare it to how we kind of used to do things, but how we all do sometimes do it. It's called a take, make, waste model, where basically you make your product, food packaging, a toy, clothes, whatever you like. It's then used by people just in their everyday lives, and then the waste bit is to do with how you dispose it. So in the past, and even in the present day, it would go to a landfill, it would be incinerated. Sometimes it's shipped off to another country that has looser environmental regulations in the UK, where it's burnt or landfilled as well. So that material isn't kept in play, is the phrase that I normally use. The difference the circular economy has is looking at partly those waste strategies and how do you kind of get rid of that linear straight line to the bin and loop it back around so you can keep using the same stuff over and over again.
Absolutely, because there are so many things that we're running out of that we just can't keep making new things of. We've got to find a way to do this. Anyone else want to jump in on circular economy description, explanation?
I'd probably just add that the products that are made of multiple materials and multiple resources are where this is most problematic. Some things, if it's just one material, it is quite easy to find a way to recycle it or reuse it. But certainly products that have multiple components and multiple materials, you've got to think about assembling it, you've got to think about the different waste streams that you're going to put the different types of materials into, and then how you're going to reuse and recycle those materials. So it is something that has its challenges, and some things are definitely easier to make more circular than others. But that's part of the reason why it's taking a while, and the reason why there's research into new technologies because it's not just one solution to this. There's lots and lots of solutions to make this actually work.
Definitely. I know a couple of schools have used examples with their pupils of the sort of packaging that goes with ready meals, that on the back there's practically an essay that says, okay, the outer packaging can be recycled in this way, and then the bit of plastic film on the inside has to have something else different, and then the tray has something else, and then there's another bit of packaging that you can't do anything with, and it becomes so complicated, I think, that people start to, even just as a behaviour thing, people start to get a little bit intimidated and think, it's just not worth doing. But I know that from the work you're all doing, you're really tackling some of these problems. So let's jump into what you've created. You've got this amazing website, and we'll link to that and share all the resources, and we've been putting lots of things up on social media about that. What was the original thinking behind the website? How did it come about? What was the reason for creating all of this to share with schools?
Honestly, it came about because of the COVID pandemic, and we were at home. We couldn't access the kind of facilities here at the university, but John and I were in a group with a couple of other students who as well, and we were all working on circular economy themed projects. We'd done a lot of reading and our own kind of reviewing of the topic and gaining our own understanding, and we really saw a gap to kind of share some of this information. And a website that was freely available for schools seemed like a really good way to share some of this knowledge, and was also something we could create at home and people could access at home. And the kind of all shift to everything being online and teaching being online, we thought online teaching resources were really kind of where classrooms were going at that time, back in, don't know, May 2020 or whenever it was.
And I think that trend is continuing for a lot of schools, that they're still looking to access things that way. Obviously, things have opened up a little bit now, but that sort of blended learning is really embedded now. So that was the thinking behind the website. And obviously, you've got these amazing, phenomenal tools and resources and videos and content and comment and things on there. When you were putting that together, did you, is it something as part of your PhD that you need to have comment, you need to have engagement from schools, or is this just an act of absolute generosity and loveliness on your part?
I don't think it's something we have to do, but I think part of being a good researcher is engaging with people outside of the academic field as well. You gain a lot from it.
So would it be fair to say that you're looking to get comment from teachers and careers leads about this? John, I know you were going to jump in there, so I'll put this question to you. What sort of things would be helpful in terms of feedback from the schools and colleges who access this?
Yeah, I was just going to add that another responsibility of ours, I think, is really to reach out, because a lot of our funding comes from the government and, of course, through the taxpayer. So we want to be able to engage with the public so they know what they're funding. And that, of course, includes teachers and schools and things. So what would be useful for us, really, is probably feedback on the lesson plans and things like that. What we aim to do is make lesson plans kind of simple and easy to use, but also informative and sort of engaging. We noticed there were circular economy teaching resources online before, but looking through them ourselves, we thought they were quite long, some of them, 10-page documents. And I've got some experience teaching myself, and I know that before a lesson, I often don't have 3 hours to prepare for a 1-hour lesson or something like that. So we wanted something kind of short and snappy, but also could be interesting and engaging. So kind of how well that works in a classroom would be great information, whether the age is pitched right. We've done our best to kind of match to the school's curriculum and things like that, but whether that works well, and also what might else be useful, I suppose, and what other topics teachers might want to talk more about related to this issue, or questions they have around this issue, or questions that students are raising around the issue of the circular economy that we could kind of speak into further. as we develop the website in future.
Fantastic. There you go. Teachers Careers Leads. That's an amazing call to action for you to take a look at some of these resources and see how they work for you, whether this is something that you can embed into your lessons, whether you blend it with something else that's already provided by one of the examining boards, or whether this is something that which really gives you a new perspective. I know that sustainability appears on some of the curriculum outlines, but not on others, and so it's definitely a challenge for schools to pitch this. Anybody else want to jump in with comments and thoughts about what sort of feedback would be useful to you personally, or to the team, to the university, in terms of feedback from teachers or students?
So I suppose I've worked more on the infographics on our website rather than the teaching resources, which are like supposed to be little digestible posters that give you like an introduction into different areas of the circular economy, and in my case, plastic waste in particular. So just, is the level of detail okay? Is it too much? Is it too little? Just anything that would help me fine tune any more that I make in the future would be amazing.
Brilliant. On that point, you've mentioned there lesson plans and infographics, and I've said that there are some videos and things on there. What other resources are on there, just so I can make sure that we're really sort of signposting these for teachers? What sort of things should they be aware of that you've created and put all of this work into?
So yeah, the website itself is split into like separate sections. So you've got the teaching resources, you've got the blog posts, the infographics. You've also got some home practicals, which again, these were mainly written during the pandemic, when children were maybe getting a little bit tired of just sitting and listening to teachers maybe on virtual school, and some parent or whatever interactive activity was kind of needed at home. So there's some quite creative activities as well on there. And then there are also sections specific to within the circular economy on topics. So as John says, knowing which topics they'd like more on, or if there's a new topic that we've maybe missed that they talk a lot about at school that we're not aware of. We've only gone off our own experience, our own research, and at the end of the day, like John says, we're not teachers, so it would be just really nice to know that what we've provided is useful, and if there are problems with it, then it can be easily tweaked, because they all have the same template. It's generated by the same group of people. As long as we know what the issues are, then there are definitely ways to change it and make it better, hopefully.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That it sounds like such an amazing set of resources on the website, and it must have taken you an absolute age to put it together. But I suppose in the days of the really severe bit of the pandemic, time was a figurative concept, really, wasn't it? We were all just finding things to do. So we've talked about some of the resources and how teachers might be able to stitch those into their lesson plans, and why it's important for schools and students to be learning about these things in general circumstances, in terms of as good citizens of the future world. What about jobs in terms of sustainability and circular economy? What kind of jobs do you think that you will be moving into, or some of your classmates and colleagues might be moving into? And what do you see as the trends for jobs in the sustainability and circular economy ether?
Yeah, I can go. I think going forward, I think it's almost certainly going to be something that actually everyone's going to have to consider in their job roles going forward, as this becomes more of a widespread issue and more of a widespread discussion. It may down the line also become, well, you might see more of dedicated roles or teams in larger companies where sustainability decisions have to be made on a more regular basis. Maybe in a similar way to how health and safety is considered within companies already. But yeah, mainly I think most people are going to have to consider it in their job roles.
Yeah, I think that's why it comes into every subject. I know that I did a placement year while I was at university, and my supervisor, who'd been doing the job for years and years, suddenly he was having to learn on the job this new topic that he had to consider into all his decisions, and that was quite difficult. And like John says, it's a little bit hard to make changes once you've been doing something for so long. Whereas I found it a little bit easier because I'd started to see it within my university curriculum. They started to teach it alongside with, modules, or it was within modules to do with chemistry. But I know that it's not just chemistry that it comes into. It's lots of, there's whole university degrees on sustainability. So there are already jobs specifically for sustainability, but as Callum says, it's going to become part of everybody's job to consider it. And I'd much rather somebody kind of no sooner than unfortunately be in the position that my supervisor on placement was, where he was really having to do a lot of extra work to almost catch up with the way things are going, and that's not a position that you really want to be in.
Very true, very good point. Jamie, Brad, sorry, John, Brad, Amy.
Yeah, I do think there will be jobs concerning sustainability in the future, because they're already here. I had a quick little Google research before this meeting, and I found this job website that advertises for green jobs, and there were a lot of companies that were advertising for sustainability consultants, companies that are becoming more aware of their environmental impact and maybe want to do their jobs in cleaner ways. Chester Zoo are looking for a head of sustainability right now, if anybody is interested. And again, we're all PhD students working on sustainability, but there are people above us in the university, postdoctoral researchers, academics, professors, all of whom their jobs are almost entirely about, or almost all of their research projects are about sustainability now. So there's already lots and lots of jobs about it. So there'll definitely be some more around in the future too.
It definitely is a trend that's not stopping, isn't it? And importantly so, it's something that I think, as we've seen from COP26, this is maybe something that we can't rely on governments and big corporations with vested interest to solve for us. This becomes something that we have to do. And I know from my work in built environment skills in schools and from the teachers and careers leads who engage with the work that we do, looking at the built environment and the construction side of things, there are companies who are paying lip service to these things, but actually the pressure and the pattern is becoming so much that that's not going to be the case for much longer. People will have to do this because whether it's by choice or whether it's forced on them with legislation and regulations and fines, or whether it's just something that clients stop buying, I think that is something that becomes, and to your point about sort of how we take this into our lives, that there will be choices that people make as customers. Will start to look at what we buy and rate the manufacturers and the suppliers on whether they're actually doing the right thing, and we'll really start to judge them. And on companies, whether the young people that you as teachers and careers leads are supporting and working with, they will want to work for companies that don't just have a bland mission statement. They actually live it and breathe it, and really deliver this in everything they do. Thank you so much for your time today, team. I know we've sort of skimmed through lots of these topics, so before we go, is there anything that you are just burning to say that you absolutely think teachers, careers leads, students need to know, need to think about, need to be aware of, resources you want to point them to, anything like that?
Just briefly, I'll add one thing then. When thinking about the circular economy, one thing that stands out to me is that we can often think about it just in terms of what do we do with our waste. But I think what's really important is to think about it in the sense that it starts with design. And really at the design stage is where important decisions are made really early on, and which are then difficult to reverse later on. So I think we need to be thinking about aspects of the circular economy and teaching children to think about aspects of the circular economy, such as product end of life, right from the inception of the idea, and stop designing products to end up in the landfill. But right early on, when people are designing new products, designing new processes, it's in the design stage that I think a lot of the outcome of the whole process is decided.
Very true, very important. Thank you. That's a really good point. Anybody else just burning to say something, or something that you wish I'd asked that I haven't, that you want to add to this?
I think if you really want to do something about being more sustainable, just make one small change, because over months, weeks, years, a lifetime, that small change will snowball and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Whether you just stop buying plastic bags, you get the bus more, or you walk more, just over time, that small effect will compound and build and build and build, and you will start to make a real difference. Just don't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. We have no more time. It's got to be now.
Yeah, to build on that what Brad said, you know, it is behaviour changes and they take time, and it's all well and good us coming up with the technologies and the solutions, you know, at the university with our research, but it's actually going to be the public who are then going to have to do the actions to enact that research or that technology. So really, it's about kind of accepting it and you know, finding the small way to contribute, because you don't have to do everything, but making that small change now will definitely make it a lot easier in the future.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amy.
I was just going to add that a lot of the research and a lot of the technology is already there to make a lot of these shifts to a more circular economy, but maybe the young people and students who are learning about it now are the people who'll be able to think outside the box a little bit more and apply these technologies in a way that some of the people who created them perhaps didn't envisage at the time, a fresh set of minds.
Definitely. And that is certainly, I'm sure teachers, careers leads watching this will be nodding along. That's certainly something that students are very good at, is challenging this. So absolutely, call to arms, please come and give your thoughts, go to the website, have a look around, use the resources, run them through with your students and come back with feedback on what you think is working really well, what you think is perhaps missing or needs to be added in, and comments and questions that your students have got. Thank you so much to the Sustainable Chemistry Research team from the University of Nottingham. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great to speak to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.